Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, and welcome to Impact. We're delighted that you've taken this time to spend with us today, and we hope to share information with you that we think will provide a wonderful opportunity for you to hear about another resource in the community that's doing great work. You know, for over 40 years, Phoenix has been providing equal employment opportunities for people with disabilities. And today we're going to be talking with two individuals who are holding up the vanguard for Phoenix. The first person I want to introduce you to is my good friend, and this is really kind of cool today to be able to do this broadcast, because I'm doing it with not just people that are out there doing something, but friends of mine. And Bryan has been a friend of mine. Bryan Dodson, the president and CEO, has been a friend of mine for over 30 years now. And I consider that an honor to be able to say that and to know that you stood by my side for so many years. And I now have a chance to talk to you on this program. So welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you, Kenny. It's great to be here, and also with a great friend that I have tremendous respect for, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about what we do.
Great. We may get a little football in there too. I
Sure,
don't know.
a little bit.
It's possible. You know, I can't miss that opportunity.
No, absolutely not. And baseball season's coming.
And baseball season too. That's right. That's right. My other good friend, David Person, somebody that I've known for approaching 30 years now, is right here in the studio with us as well. He's communications director for Phoenix, and we're going to tell you a whole lot more about what Phoenix is in a moment. But David, welcome to the broadcast. Anytime we have a chance to get together and talk anywhere, it's a good time for me.
Yeah, same here. It's good to be here. I enjoy what you're doing here, and congratulations for bringing this new piece to the city.
Well, we're excited about it, and you know, this is really the perfect opportunity to talk to you all about the great work that's being done at Phoenix. As I said, Phoenix has been around, its footprint's been in this community for a long time. And not just in this community, but the region, around the nation, and around the world. And I used to say many years ago when I was a young college student just coming out of school and working for then Huntsville Rehab Center, which became Phoenix, that Phoenix was a very well-kept secret. Not that we wanted it to be, but we were really just starting to establish ourselves at that time. And so much has happened in that period of time. Bryan, tell us what Phoenix is for those who may not be familiar with what Phoenix is.
Well, we're a nonprofit organization. We're a 50C3 nonprofit, local in North Alabama, based in Huntsville. And we provide services to people with disabilities to hopefully help them become successful in the world of work. And we provide services to about 1,300 people a year in Madison County and Huntsville, Morgan County, Limestone County, Coleman counties, Jackson counties. We operate 2 business units that do contract work for the federal government through a program called the Ability One program that employs about 600 people in 4 states.
Wow. And of course, what you're saying right now is a reflection of the growth that you've experienced over the years.
It's been incredible. We're, we're at about 725 employees throughout the organization, serving about 1,300 folks a year. And the 33 years I've been there, the growth has been tremendous, and it's happened because we have tremendous support from all kinds of folks in all walks of life. In the federal government, the city of Huntsville has been a great friend to our organization for many, many years. And we have a lot of people out there telling the story, and wherever 2 or more are gathered, we'll come tell the story because we're here to serve the community and serve people with disabilities, and hardly a time that we don't appear, that we appear on a program like this or speak to a civic club that we don't have somebody that doesn't come up and say, hey, I have a friend, I have a son, I have a I mean, they know somebody they think could benefit from our services.
Yeah. You know, I was able to watch the part of that growth. I remember my first experience with Huntsville Rehab, then, now Phoenix, was on Bob Wallace Avenue. We purchased some property over on Johnson Road, began building that facility, watched it come up from the ground, and then suddenly it was there. And one of the things that I always found amazing was that people would kind of come through that front door in the lobby area, and it'd be a very welcoming environment. It would look like a well put together business structure. And then they would go through that walkway between the buildings, and then they'd open up this other door. And back there you see all of this work going on that was just incredible to see it happening right here in this city. Flag production, water bags, and lots of other kinds of things. Talk a little bit about that part of the process in relationship to how Phoenix makes an impact on society.
Okay, and you're right, it is interesting to watch that, but the Ability One program is a federal program, federal law that allows the federal government to set aside the purchase of goods and services from nonprofits that employ people with disabilities. And we've been a participant in that program for the 40 years that Ability One has existed. And again, good people at Redstone Arsenal, federal employees, have helped us a lot in this process. And so we have a manufacturing division that employs about 100 folks that makes about $8 million of products for the federal government each year. We make burial flags for the VA. If you go to a funeral and there's a flag on the casket, there's a 50-50 chance people with disabilities made that flag. If you jump out of a perfectly good aircraft in the military, you wear a parachute harness that we make. An A-22 air delivery system, which is used to deliver emergency supplies to people in dire need after tsunamis and earthquakes around the world. And then we have some commercial work that we do as well for local companies. On the service side, we clean Redstone Arsenal. We're the custodians. We clean 8.3 million square feet in 540 buildings every day with a 98.3% customer satisfaction rating. We maintain 6,300 acres of grounds on Redstone Arsenal. We own some really, really big tractors and lawnmowers and all this cool equipment that's fun to watch operate. And then we provide services such as mail and supply room operations for the federal government at Redstone. We clean the federal courthouse in downtown Huntsville. We have custodians at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and Dahlgren Naval Air Station in Virginia. And we have one employee at Fort Hood, Texas, in support of the Army Aviation Office. And all of those jobs are provided through the Ability One program to support the federal government. And our obligation under the law is that 75% of our workforce are people with severe vocational disabilities. And last year we averaged 82% of our workforce are people with vocational disabilities.
And you know, David, people with disabilities are some of the most able people that I've come across in my lifetime. It's a very remarkable type of experience to come across people who, in your mind, you may have thought of in one way, but then actually got a chance to see them perform and was actually blown away. And I tell people all the time about how, in my work history and experience, I've seen people who could outperform people who appeared to be without any kind of disability. You get the chance to tell the story of Phoenix all the time. It's your big job as communications director is to share the good word about Phoenix. What kinds of things do you get a chance to talk to people about in the community?
That's a great question. I get a chance to talk to people about the fact that, first of all, everybody has an ability. You know, I think we have, as a society, we have framed this as a negative. We put the dis in front of ability. But the real focus in society, a healthy functioning society, should be ability. Everybody has an ability. You know, it may range from something very simple as, you know, enabling people to smile, or it could be something much more complex and involved. So what we try to focus on at Phoenix is the reality that there is a place for everyone. It doesn't matter what physical limitations they may be encumbered with or what mental, you know, limitations they may be encumbered with. They have the ability to contribute something to society. Yeah. And I've seen it at Phoenix. I've also, just in being out in the community, had people come up to me, had somebody come up to me recently and talk about his son who had a traumatic brain injury, but this son was still able to play baseball and to do other things and even to work. And so, again, I think we have to reframe the way we look at this.
Yeah. What about the language of disability? It's something I find myself in conversation about from time to time, just the whole notion of the way people refer to people who have an identified disability or even an unidentified disability or unacknowledged disability. How important is it for us to demonstrate a sensitivity to others' experiences and balance that whole fight that people sometimes wage in society against political correctness? You know, I try to tell people it's not about me being politically correct. It's about me being human and humane
and respectful.
and respectful to others.
And that's a great point, particularly on a TV set, because for years and years, you know, the media generally has the way they want to do things. But, you know, in our world, we use people first language because people are people first, and people with disabilities certainly are people first. And so the way we say it is we refer to people with disabilities, not disabled people. And David, the way you frame that is exactly correct. Everybody has abilities, and it's focused on the person rather than on the disability.
Yeah. And David, you and I have had a chance to talk. I worked at Phoenix, which then was Huntsville Rehab, for the first 10 years out of college. Everything I am today, and I've said this to you before, Bryan, everything that I am today is because of two things that happened in my life, and other things as well, but two really significant things. The first was Jack and Annie Anderson and the foundation that they provided in my life. And the second thing was the care that I was provided and the nurturance that I was provided at Huntsville Rehab Center, which is now Phoenix. The people I work with who are very caring people, very compassionate people, very competent people, very knowledgeable people, very loving people, and work together in a spirit of harmony. And I know you found some of that as well in terms of the staff. I say, even today, some 30 plus years later, that's one of the finest staffs in the land. Through many iterations of that, you seem to maintain that type of thing. David is on board now. I think he brings tremendous resources to the table. What have you found in just working with the staff at Phoenix?
I found that it's very much, and I know this may sound like a cliche, but I really mean this sincerely. I found that it's very much like a family. Now, in a family, you've got a lot of different dynamics that exist, right? We all know this, you know.
Right.
You got the uncle that's a little bit odd, you know. You got the aunt that's a little bit fussy, or whatever it is. But I think the thing that holds the family together, the commonality in any, you know, reasonably healthy, functioning family, is that commonality of name and ancestry and so forth. And so at Phoenix, what we value, that commonality for us, as Bryan just said, is the humanness. And as you just said, it's the humanness, it's the peopleness, if you will. You know, we all are there because we believe in the value of people. You know, that doesn't mean that we do everything right or perfectly or that everything always goes smoothly, but it means that we've got that common goal. And that links us together, helps us to move forward together. And Phoenix really does, I think, provide a very significant and substantive existence for people who otherwise would not have jobs, quite frankly, because the limited abilities that some of them have, and again, they have abilities, but they may be limited relative to what somebody else can do, you know, at a given point in time, isn't valued perhaps by society in the way that it could be and that we think it should be, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And of course, the other thing I'll just say real quickly is that one of the things that I learned at Phoenix and I've taken to heart is that at some point in time, all of us, if we live long enough, we're going to have a disability of some sort.
Yeah, that needs to be addressed.
And that's, in my 33 years, Kenny, that's as fine a compliment as we've ever received, and I thank you for it. But it is about getting, you know, another old cliche, but getting the right people on the bus. And when we interview people, we say, this is our mission, this is why we're here. And if it can't be your primary focus, then you probably need to find somewhere else to work, because we have lots of opportunities, we have lots of challenges, and just as with the city of Huntsville, with any organization, if folks don't clearly understand the mission and the purpose, you can get all kinds of noise in the room. But if everybody understands this is why we're here and this is the essence of what we do, and they've bought into that, then, you know, we can all agree to disagree, and the disagreements make us a better organization, because, you know, who wants an organization where everybody thinks alike?
Yeah.
But you respect each other and you listen to each other, and consequently, what I hope is, and our goal is, that the people that we exist to serve receive better services, because we have some squabbles in the back room and that we eventually get worked out.
You know, it's interesting too. You reference having been there 33 years. That's a long time. I mean, it's a full career, and it's not an odd thing to find people at Phoenix now, having been there for many, many years.
I have the fourth longest tenure
and
in 33 years.
And isn't that something? You know, I know my good friend David Perez has been there many, many years, over 30.
Yeah. Judy Justice has been there 38 years.
Judy's been there, yeah.
So,
And, you know, just some of the people I work with over Tim Stickley and Langford Kane and just those names, it's almost like a hall of fame of vocational rehab specialists that I think about very favorably and very humbly in my own experience, knowing that, you know, when you come there, as you said, you're very clearly purposed in terms of why you're there. Otherwise, there really isn't a place for you to fit. And the people that have been attracted to that facility and who have been engaged in the process of working with people seem to just stay many times. I even left and came back for a couple of years.
Sure, and you're still part of the family. But you know, I think it does relate to what people that work for the city of Huntsville do. We were talking before we came on about education, and my wife's an educator, and I know educators feel this way. I think a lot of folks, including our employees at Phoenix, really buy into it because they know they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. Mm. You know, just as an HPD officer who is out there standing between a lot of folks and some bad things that potentially could happen, or the first responders that come to a fire or a tragic accident, you know, they're doing something bigger than themselves. And you know, people can buy into that as opposed to saying, well, we need to do this so we make a 1% more profit. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not very motivating to people. But if you know that you can see people whose lives have been changed for the better because of something you do, you can, you know, people get into that. I get into that. And as I go around Huntsville and see folks I know that we helped get their first job, and they're either still in that job or they've moved up the food chain and done better, you know, it makes everything worthwhile.
And of course, in keeping with that is this familial atmosphere that's created there. There are points of celebration and fun that you have at the rehabs, at Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah.
I'm so used to
That's okay.
my old, you know,
That's right.
identity. But just the whole point of celebrating birthdays, other special occasions that people may have, the pickers pool in football that you established. In fact, I got to say this since this is a bully platform right now.
That's right.
So just bear with me for a moment. The very first pickers pool where a little pig was the reward, I won.
That's right.
I still have that pig today.
Good for you. Yeah, of course, you know now when you win, you get a peach knee-high. But,
Right.
but you know,
Which I would trade for the pig any day, by the way.
but you know, it's the camaraderie when you spend a lot of time and you spend a lot of pain with each other. And by that I mean, you know, you're working hard and everything's not always successful. And even though with over 65% of the people we work with, we're successful in helping them find a job and be successful in that job, that means a third of them we're not successful with. You know, and you know, you lose a few, not lose them permanently, but you know, they're not successful. But you go through all that together, it does create a real sense of common purpose, and therefore you have, if you cry together, you got to have some fun together and those kinds of things.
Yeah. You went through a rebranding process, and you know, I keep stumbling over rehab in Phoenix, but you went through a rebranding process in the last few years. I know, David, you were part of that as well. New logo and lots of other things. Was that just a response to the times that we're in and the transformational and transitional kinds of things that we're experiencing? Tell us a little bit about that process.
You know, Bryan and the management team there had begun it before I got there, but my take on it is that Phoenix, as you alluded to earlier, has a very well-known presence, but it's not a presence that people necessarily always connected to what we were doing. So, you know, it was almost as though you'd have to explain a little bit for people to say, oh yeah, that place on Johnson Road. Okay, yeah, you guys do the Arsenal, right? You know, so I think the attempt was to try to unify the brand, if you will. I know a lot of people sort of bristle sometimes at that whole marketing kind of schlock stuff, but there is a value to it when you're trying to get your message out, keep your message a consistent message. So we wanted people to understand that whether you see us at the Arsenal, whether you see it in several capacities, by the way, at the Arsenal, or whether you see us in some other part of town or even some other place in the nation, Phoenix is still Phoenix. The values are still the same. The commitment to quality is still the same. And I think this is a good point for me to actually interject this. Phoenix would not be able to do what it does without the very wonderful cooperation and consideration of Redstone Arsenal, the Huntsville City Schools. I could name other entities. Bryan actually named most of those. But then I also want to add many local businesses in this community who very graciously enter into a partnership with us to try to help people with disabilities to find their place. And we're very glad that some of those businesses have been repeaters with us. You know, they have allowed us to place other people there and more people there because they understand not only that what we're doing is important, but that it works.
In the second part of the rebranding is the times we're in. Guess what? Working for the city, budgets are limited for governments, and the state organization that we work very closely with, the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation, does not have unlimited resources, and consequently there have been some smaller nonprofits who are their partners who have not made it. And so we knew going more to a regional scope in providing services to people with disabilities, we're not ashamed. We're certainly very proud to be part of Huntsville, but we needed to get the Huntsville out of our name because we're now providing services in Coleman County, Morgan County, Limestone County, Jackson County, you know, other parts of the state. And so we wanted a more more regional type of name that folks could identify with.
How have you weathered the storm over the years? Because there have been all kinds of economic challenges over the years. I can remember as far back as when I was there how, you know, oftentimes when people are talking about bringing new staff on and having extra resources to use, play around with in a lot of ways, but we were always talking about doing more with less and streamlining the process. How has Phoenix weathered that storm over the years with the economic ups and downs?
Well, we've had a lot of good help. We have the greatest board of volunteers, our volunteer board of directors that any organization could hope for, who are good, solid business and professional folks who help us do a good planning. We've got good advisors, you know, our lawyers and our CPAs and bankers and all of those key partners. But we work real hard at efficiencies. I'm real proud of the fact that our overhead, our G&A, the burden, my salary and accounting and all those, you know, have-to-haves, you know, is still less than 7% of our total revenue. We work very hard at keeping all of the dollars we can in direct services to the folks that we serve and try to have good, efficient computer systems and networks and payroll systems and all that mundane stuff that you can spend a fortune on if you're not careful. But we try to, you know, again, drive as many dollars as we can to the people that we're here to serve, because that's our mission.
Right. I'm going to ask both of you this question. You, of course, Bryan, have been around a lot longer in the mix at Phoenix, but something that the community may not know about Phoenix that you would really want them to know and understand?
Whew, wow, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. What? I'd like for them to look inside. I'd like for them to come see what people with disabilities, when you put together teams of motivated people who, as David very aptly said, they may not have the same skill set that you and I have, but they've still got skills. But when you put those teams together, what a fabulous job they do for their customer, our customer, and whether that's making a parachute harness or cleaning a restroom on Redstone Arsenal. They're motivated and they care. And it's kind of like I told my sons growing up, just care. Because if you care, people can deal with a lot of imperfections if they know that that you're trying to do your best. And to me, it's just fabulous every day to watch those groups of employees that work together, make up for each other's shortcomings, and produce great results.
Yeah. David?
Yeah, for me, I would say that that it is really, literally life-changing for a person with what we call a disability to be able to find his or her place. And so if you come to Phoenix, what you're going to see is people whose lives have literally been transformed. The most immediate example I think of is our buddy, Mr. William Cheeks, who's our front desk person. He oversees that area. And his life has really been changed. And I won't get into all the details of his story. It's his story. He should tell it. But if you ever come by Phoenix, I hope that people will, as they engage with William, he's gregarious, he's funny, he's just a really cool guy. If you engage with him and you really make that connection, go on and ask him what his story is. He'll probably tell you. He's somebody who has survived things that many other people have not survived. And I think that Phoenix has played a role in that. And so again, I would just say, you take a person, regardless of what you think their limitations are, and give them a chance to find a place where they can work and be productive. And not only does it transform them, but it actually decreases the burden on society, as studies have shown us. Many people with disabilities are recipients of government funds and, what we, sort of generically call welfare. But when they are working productively, they don't need that. And that helps the taxpayers, that helps society, and most importantly, it helps them and their families.
That's right, and certainly boosts self-esteem. It's got to be huge in that sense. We've just got minutes or less left in the broadcast, but I can't let you get away with asking you about Derek Jeter. This is his last season playing. The city of New York, the center of the baseball and sports universe.
Right, obviously. Somehow I thought that was a town kind of west of Birmingham.
But this is obviously going to be a great baseball year for him as he exits the game. Last year it was Mariano Rivera, had a great exit year. What are your thoughts about Jeter leaving the game?
I hope he has a great year. He's been a great star for a long time, even if he hasn't played on the correct team, but I wish him well. It ought to be a great celebration.
I was actually talking to, and I will say this, a Boston Red Sox fan.
Boston fan?
Yeah, as if that's a legitimate team in the first place. But it's the bully platform.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. May I just add, go White Sox. I got mine in.
There's some Cubby fans out there too, I'm sure. You see,
wrong side of town. Cubs, who knows? I don't know what it is.
So they kind of understand the New York-Boston thing, but some Boston Red Sox fans said something about Jeter somewhat disparagingly, and someone said, Jeter's got more rings on his fingers than the Red Sox have World Series in the last 100 years. Just kind of shut the conversation down. The guy didn't know what to say.
That's true. He does.
The thing is, you really got to respect his game. You also have to respect his sportsmanship and the image that he brought to the game. And I think he's been a great Yankee. I think he's been a great thing for baseball. And, I think he'll go out definitely on top. So
I think he's a class act. And to me, that's, no matter what your profession is
all right.
If you got class.
Player. Yeah. Gutsy player, yeah.
Bryan Dodson, CEO and President of Phoenix, and David Person, Communication Director for Phoenix. Thank you all for being here today. Phone number where people can contact you and a website?
256-880-0671, www.phoenix, Phoenix, HSV, abbreviation for Huntsville.org.
And we hope that you'll follow us on Facebook at Impact with Kenny Anderson. We'll have their pictures as well as the YouTube video of this particular presentation. And we'll also let you know when the airing date will take place. In the meantime, we hope that you have a great rest of the week. And as always, we hope that you stay safe. We'll see you again.